complained about him to everyone, not seeing how it damaged our trust. He's gone now, and I'm sorry. How do I start writing this right now? I feel so ashamed of myself, and I don't even have the mind to share it. If anyone had told me that one day I would come on Reddit to share my story, I would call that person crazy. I can't believe I'm the one right now. I made a big mistake, and I don't know how to correct it. I have been tearing up for about a week now. I just wanted a perfect man that I could boast of, but I guess I just took it too far. Right now, I realize that I might have overreacted. My name is Amanda, Mandy for short. I am a 32-year-old interior designer. My husband's name is Jake. He is a 34-year-old baseball coach. My husband and I have been married for 4 years now. My husband and I met at an annual community fundraiser 5 years ago. Jake and I have known each other for 5 years, but we have been married for 4 years. We met at an annual community fundraising event. We started off as friends that day we met and took things slow. Well, for me actually, because Jake was never a patient type. Back then he was very much in love with me to the extent people gossiped about it. It was more like an obsession. Jake back then wanted to know and be involved in everything I was doing. He follows me literally everywhere. It got even worse when we got married. Honestly, I'm not saying it's a bad thing for your partner to be too involved in your business. No, guys, that was not what I meant. I personally don't like it. So guys, that fateful day we met was my first time seeing Jake. I have been part of that event for ages, or let's say ever since I was a teenager, and I can bet that I had never come across Jake. Jake also has been part of it since childhood. The most shocking part of it was that his family was one of the organizers of the event. That day we exchanged contacts and kept in touch with each other. At that time, we were both in our final year in college, but in different places, and a few months later we graduated. After graduation, Jake and I dated for 6 months and decided to tie the knot together on a new year. We planned it that way because we wanted all our family members to attend our wedding. The wedding was memorable and we had a lot of fun, but I wasn't too happy like a bride should. I faked all the smiles. That was the biggest mistake of my life. I should have been true to myself and to Jake also. Honestly speaking, guys, I really did not like Jake the way he liked me. Yes, guys, the love was one-sided from the beginning. I thought maybe one day I would learn to love him totally, but that never happened. I should have opened up to him about it and called off the wedding. Then, I thought about the emotional damage and didn't want to shatter Jake's heart on the altar. I thought of going on with the wedding to see if I could love and accept him. But the one time I started to give him a chance, it never lasted long. I was always finding fault in whatever he does. The most painful part of it all was that I kept pretending to myself and also to him. It even got worse when we both finally got married to each other. I know a lot of you all would say, maybe I was trying to heal from a heartbreak, but guess what, guys? That wasn't the issue. I have never been into any toxic relationship before I met Jake. My relationship with Jake wasn't toxic either. I don't know why, but I don't really find Jake fancy. He isn't like the other guys that I have dated in the past. Most of the guys I have dated were good looking and were all physically bodily built. My husband was never the type. My husband got fed up one day and he left. Yes, guys, he did. Right now, as I'm writing this, I don't even know where my husband is. We got into a big argument and he left. It's been 2 months since Jake left the house and he hasn't returned. He left no clue about his whereabouts. I have reached out to a lot of relatives, family friends, and colleagues, but no one seems to know about his whereabouts. I guess my condescending attitudes pushed him away. Since Jake left, I have been finding it difficult to fend for myself. My husband left with his life savings. We both had a joint credit card and saved our money there for future expenses, but 90% of the money there was his. Guys, it's a huge amount of money, and my husband left it without leaving a penny for me. The house bills and monthly expenses are taking a toll on me. I couldn't take it any longer. That's why I have decided to come out and vent. This is too much for only me to bear alone. Most of my friends and family members that I have cried to for help all turned their backs on me, most especially my parents. They cut all financial support since the day I got married. I no longer have access to any monetary benefits from them. They kept reminding me of how my condescending attitude sent my husband away. I really regretted it, no doubt, but that's not all that I need right now. I really want to fix this and also apologize to my husband for making him feel less of himself. The most heartbreaking part of this is that my husband also took my personal credit card with him. The previous night, before Jake and I got into an argument before he left, a client of mine sent me some amount of money to do some interior decor for his new apartment. It's been 2 months and the client isn't taking it lightly with me. I have explained what happened and he's not ready to understand any of it. The agreed date he proposed that I either do the design or refund the money has elapsed. I don't even have money to feed, then talk more of having money to buy the materials I need for the design. Right now I'm fed up. I can't reach my husband. His lines are not reachable. He blocked me on all platforms and left no clue about where he went. What I am very sure of is that his family members know his whereabouts but wouldn't want to let me know. Jake has planned with his family to punish me. It's been 2 months already, and I have finally learnt my lessons. I just want him to come back so I can pay off this debt I'm in right now to clear my name. The client is on my neck and everything is so frustrating right now. I know a lot of you would want to ask how all of this started and what actually made my husband run away, right? Well, I'm going to tell you all about it. So guys, like I said earlier, I didn't love my husband Jake the way he loved me, mainly because of his physical appearance. He never had the physique I looked up to in a man, and he wasn't like the type of men that I had dated in the past. Jake doesn't know how to dress expensively mostly because he prefers to save and save. I have tried talking with him on this, but it never ends on a good note. We either end up fighting or give each other attitudes. The frustrating part of all this is that my husband was comfortable going out like that. Sometimes I don't really feel comfortable going out with him to any gatherings. Yes, the first day we met at the annual community fundraising, he dressed casually, and I didn't have any problem with it. I thought maybe it was just a one-time thing, but guys, it got worse. I have tried and tried to teach him how to dress well, but all to no avail. Most of our dates were usually done in the evenings and not in a populated place. That's to show how embarrassed I was then. Honestly, that was not the kind of man I dreamt of marrying. I don't even know what got into me that I accepted his proposal in the first place. I thought maybe along the line he was going to change, but he didn't. I couldn't control it and couldn't tolerate it either. I started pouring out my mind to him. Most of our disagreements were based on his physical appearance and the fact that he hated spending expensively on clothing. I don't like to look like everyone else. It's always best to look different and sophisticated. What hurts me more is the fact that as a result of him not caring to buy designer outfits, he never spends his money buying them for me. Not only that, guys, Jake wasn't financially up to my standards. As a graduate, I have told him by writing emails to different companies and organizations that maybe he would secure a better paying job so we could live okay and stop coaching. But my husband didn't listen to me. He earns reasonably more than me, but I just wanted more. I don't think it's a crime to want more, right? I couldn't take it any longer, guys, and so I cheated on him. I cheated on my husband with one of my exes, Fred. Fred was the last guy I dated before I met Jake, my husband. We broke up on a mutual agreement because he was about to go to the States, and we weren't ready for any long-distance relationship. That was how Fred and I relationship ended. So guys, Fred was in town one day, and he proposed for us to link up. It took me 4 days before I accepted his proposal. I was dealing a lot at that time. I was not even ready for anything like that. But I later gave it a second thought to see what would come out of it, and so I agreed to his proposal. We linked up at our usual restaurant, and it brought back a lot of memories. We chatted about a few things like the time we spent together and life after the breakup. It was then I told him about all that I was going through, and I somehow found solace in him. Fred was not a perfect guy, but he met some qualities I looked up to in a guy. He had amazing features, but we didn't end up together. So guys, one thing led to another that day, and we made up. Yes, guys, we did, and it was just one time, and we never met since that day. No one knew about this, not even my husband. I thought doing that would ease my stress, but it didn't. I know what I did was bad, and I'm not even proud of it either. It was a one-time thing, and again, one time wouldn't hurt to relieve me of the headaches my husband was giving me. Well, I'm not trying to validate what I did, but then I needed to do something, so I won't go crazy. What even got me more fed up was when a friend of ours, Catherine and Joel, were having a housewarming party, and they had invited us to attend, and Jake decided to embarrass me. They even gave out a dress code, which was an emerald green party. I went out of my way to shop for myself and my husband so we could look nice together as a couple. I told my husband about my plans, and he agreed to put on the outfit I was going to get for him from the store. The store owner was a close friend of mine, and she gave me a couple of men's outfits to give to my husband to make his choice and return the rest. The clothes came as planned, and my husband did the testing, and he made his choice. He was even happy with it, and we sent the rest back to the store. 2 nights before the party, my friend Catherine called me to help her out with some few things concerning the preparations, which I did, and couldn't go back home because there was a lot to do, and I had promised I was going to help her out. I called my husband about the new development and told him I wasn't going to come back home before the party. He agreed and sent my outfit. So guys, the day of the party came and everything was set and ready. The guests were arriving in their numbers before the official time. Jake, on the other hand, was nowhere to be found. I called but wasn't reachable. The party started and the official opening was done. I was really angry because I expected him to have been there earlier. I just wasn't having it. Jake did end up coming, but I was so furious by then that I wasn't ready to listen to him. I had already vented to my friends at the party, and they all had tea of what was going on. He finally pulled me to the side at some point to let me know the reason he ended up coming late. According to him, he got a last-minute work call from a side job he had been involved in. He tried to make me understand that he got paid a lot of money for the job, but that still didn't make a difference to me. I was just tired of his priorities being different from mine. I like to show up and show out, and I don't think that's a crime at all. Jake was really stressed that night, and I think he was able to find out that I had complained to my friends about his behavior. At first, he was willing to try calming me down, but at some point I noticed that he left me alone and didn't care to check if I had already calmed down or not. He was nonchalant, and I even spotted him making phone calls without caring to look for me. I couldn't believe my eyes had that point. He had wronged me, yet he was ready to forget all about it and act like nothing happened. I got so furious and left the party. Catherine tried stopping me, but I wasn't having it. I went home without Jake. After all, we didn't come together as a couple in the first place. My husband came back home a few minutes after I arrived. He was so furious to the extent I saw the line of his veins on his head popping out. I have never seen him in that state before. He yelled at me and didn't let me say anything, and ordered me to keep mute while he did the talking. Jake expressed how badly he felt anytime I complained about his physique, financial status, and his mode of dressing. He told me how he had been putting up with my excesses just so our marriage would work out, but he was no longer going to do that, and he was fed up with my constant nagging. At that moment, I was shocked and my mouth was literally opened. For a moment, I couldn't figure out who was standing before me, if it was my husband Jake or someone else. That day, I saw a different side of Jake that I never met before. From what I saw that day, Jake acted like someone who had been going through a lot and couldn't endure any longer. He didn't fail to mention how condescending I was towards him, and how I brought him down in front of my friends and his family. He explained that he put up with me only because he wanted to, and not because he was a doormat. I stood there speechless and didn't know what to say. I was literally in a state of shock, guys, and I wondered if this was really happening or not. Just then, Jake hurriedly went into the bedroom. He spent a few minutes there before he finally came out. Jake was with a big luggage filled with some of his belongings, and he left. I couldn't stop him because at that time I was trying to figure out what was really happening. It was so surreal and felt like a dream to me. That day, after a few hours, I started trying to reach out to my husband to know about his whereabouts. I thought maybe he had gone to stay with one of his friends just so he could clear his head, but he didn't. The night was getting darker that day. I didn't see my husband. I waited for 2 days, and he didn't return or call to let me know about his whereabouts. I just kept wondering what must have happened to him, and hoped he was okay wherever he was. I couldn't muster the courage to tell my relatives and in-laws that my husband was missing, and it was all my fault. On the 3rd day of not getting any information about him, I went over to inform my in-laws about their missing son. Out of the people present that I was sharing this with, none seemed to be moved. Everyone went about their business. It was then I realized that Jake wasn't missing as I thought. He had planned it with his family to leave me stranded. I was happy I didn't make any missing report because I would have looked stupid. The person I was thinking about isn't missing and was probably somewhere living his life. I kept waiting for my husband, but he didn't return. I reached out to some of his friends, but none seemed to know his whereabouts. Each day I kept praying for Jake to return back home so we could fix things up and also pay the debts. Like I said earlier, guys, it's been 2 months since Jake left, and I haven't heard anything from him. Update. Hey Reddit. It's been a while here. I'm sorry for the delay and also sorry for not keeping in touch. It's been almost a month since I last updated you guys on this about the big mess I was in last month. So guys, after 3 months and 2 weeks of being away, guess who decided to show up? My husband Jake. His return wasn't for reconciliation, but for a divorce. I thought maybe he left to clear his head, but no, that wasn't the case. My husband somehow got to know about my infidelity with my ex, Fred, and didn't take it lightly. Honestly, guys, I still can't believe how he got to know about it, but that's the least of my problems right now. He decided to come out of his hiding place just to serve me divorce papers. Like, who does that? After keeping me in an uncomfortable state for how many weeks he decided to divorce me? This is crazy. I even got to know that the job almost missed the party for having hired him full-time. I heard it from someone else, and it pissed me off that just when he was finally becoming the man I wanted, he wanted to divorce me. I just feel like it's unfair that after all I had been through trying to manage our marriage and be with him, even though I wanted someone else, he was going to divorce me. I don't care what anyone says, I am just very disappointed. I am still very sad and regret my actions because my karma has hit harder than ever. I tried pleading for forgiveness, but he gave me a deaf ear. He told me that he can't live with a woman that would try to bring his ego down at every slight provocation and have him discussed outside. I pleaded that I was going to change and begged for a second chance. Even after everything, he signed the divorce papers and made sure I did before leaving the house without uttering any other word. After I was done signing, my husband went into the room and packed the rest of his belongings, and he left. I fell on my knees and wept bitterly. You might think I have no reason to complain because I was left with a house, but guess what? Our house is a rented apartment. He literally left me to pay the bills. I totally regretted my actions and I took back my words, but at that moment it was too late. My husband was no longer the man I used to know. He was looking so different and he changed completely. Anytime I think about what I had done to him, I feel so restless and keep praying he forgives me because my words were too demeaning. I realized that there were better methods I could have handled. I should have approached him about his dressing and not talked about it in a condescending way. I should also not look down on him financially and also accept him the way he was. I didn't do any of these. Rather, I nagged at him without considering how he felt. I broke the trust we shared by talking down on him with friends. I shouldn't have done that. I failed my husband by bringing so low and not respecting him as my husband in any way. I thought maybe that would make him change and start being the man I wanted him to be. But I guess I took it the wrong way and never accepted him as my husband from the beginning. My mistake was to go ahead with the marriage plans after realizing that he wasn't up to my standards and taste. I kept pushing him away. My husband showed me nothing but love, but I was too carried away by physical appearance and financial status and neglected the man that literally adored me. I hate that my friends are only telling me all this now that he has left and there's nothing to do. I'm severely upset that they are only pointing out my faults after I am left helpless with no reasonable way forward. I feel betrayed and led on because this is all just too much. Nothing has changed since he left. In less than a few days, I would become homeless because I can't keep up with the house bills. My family wouldn't even assist me in anything because I was constantly hurting my husband's ego by discussing him with friends and even cheated on him. A lot is happening right now and it's driving me crazy. The worst part is that our divorce hearing will soon start in court, and I know the process will do nothing but remind me of my trauma. I still wasn't able to pay my client his money, and Jake didn't even bring that up before leaving, even though I told him about it. Honestly, I don't even know what to do right now. My job is currently in shambles. No job offer is coming, and I don't have any money to feed or to take care of myself. I have sold a few things to raise money to clear some debts, but it's not enough. Day by day, the debts keep increasing, and there's no money to sustain it. I literally brought it upon myself, and I have learnt the hardest lesson in my adult life.